In this segment, I want to welcome aboard Brian Hoops, and he is the founder of Midwest Market Solutions, and he's based in Springfield, Missouri. He joins us right now. Lots of stuff to talk about here, and it's not all just basically fundamental reasons here. Brian, we have things going on in South America. We have things going on, of course, in Eastern Europe. We have things going on right here in the U.S. For one thing, there was a story out this morning that Ukraine may not be able to plant as much as 40% of their crops this spring. And some analysts say, well, they don't even think they can get that much planted just because of the ongoing war situation there. I did hear where Brazil has already planted 94% of their safrinha corn crop now, but they're having issues getting fertilizer. And where do they get their fertilizer? They get it from Ukraine, they get it from Russia and China, and a couple other places. So things are getting kind of tense here, Brian.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year, Marlon. We've heard those same reports, and the trade should have acknowledged them by now. It looks like Ukraine is going to be down on their crop acres this year, and who knows what type of crop is going to be seeded into the ground, or if they're going to have time to attend to it during the growing season. As you mentioned, Brazil's second corn crop is being seeded and almost virtually seeded, but they are having some issues with fertilizers. So again, another big question here is how good of the crop are they going to be able to grow? And we have that same question here in the United States with the shortage of fertilizers. Will we be able to get enough fertilizer to meet all these acres that we need to plant? We do need to plant a little bit more corn than what we did a year ago to rebuild that cushion or that ending stocks numbers that we've seen. We're exporting a little bit more corn. Our sales have been pretty decent here recently, and that is cutting into those balance sheets. USDA did trim our ending stocks by 100 million bushels in the last report, and they could, certainly be justified in doing additional trimming in subsequent reports. So, yeah, it's going to be a very interesting year, and it's going to be hard to pencil in any type of real trend line or better yields in those countries we talked about, Ukraine and Brazil, and here in the United States as well.
Well, in the corn, we're actually mixed right now. You have the May contract, a quarter of a cent, make that a half cent higher now at 7.48 3/4. Your new crop December contract down 5.5 cents at 6.47. But some analysts have been pointing out that, the corn is really maybe looking at some upside potential later on this year. If all these things converge and they have maybe a shortfall of a crop in South America and Brazil with their safrinha crop. And what about the battle for acreage here in the U.S.? We have an ongoing drought here too. Is it possible that corn could retest the highs?
Well, yeah, it's absolutely possible, and that's why we've been talking with clients that are interested in making cash sales because a lot of places are offering $7 plus type corn. Is if you are making sales, look at reownership opportunities going into the summer and into the early stages of fall, because you don't really know what's going to happen with weather. Nobody does, and we don't know all these other factors. It seem like much more factors at play that could influence prices this year than previous years. Not only are we talking planted acres, but we're talking about fertilizers in different countries of their crop sizes. So yeah, you don't know how high is high potentially this year. We don't want to make outlandish predictions, but things really could get explosive if we have some sort of a drought here in the United States this summer. So you do have to be proactive in marketing. You want to give yourself some flexibility. Option strategies will give you that flexibility to either retain ownership either through the options market or through the cash markets, but still being able to sleep at night knowing you have the downside protected.
So the May soybeans right now are 18.5 lower. We're at 16.52 per bushel. November new crop down 17.25 at 14.63 3/4. Well, we talked about the wheat just going wild here again today. It's getting back to its old routine. We have the May Chicago wheat 26 higher and July up 27 cents here today at 10.97. Did get as high as 11.10 earlier. In Kansas City, with the drought going on, you have that July wheat now 31.5 higher at 11.17 per bushel. And don't forget about the Minneapolis spring wheat trade. They'll be planting that crop here before long. July now up a dime at 10.67. Brian will be back in a moment, and we'll analyze our cattle and hog markets next. Well, let's go back to Brian Hoops of Midwest Market Solutions. We were just talking during the break about some funny things. We had the PPI numbers that came out this morning indicating a year-over-year inflation rate of 10%. And we have the Dow higher by about 200 points today. That doesn't seem to match. Look at crude oil right now, and on the futures trade, your West Texas Intermediate crude is taking a big nosedive. We have April down $8.31 today at 94.70 per barrel after a high of 102.58 earlier in the day. And then you had the cattle market. It started out, it was higher across the board, and then it turned mixed. We have April live cattle 22 lower, but June is 27 higher at 135.97, so a little confusion there. If you look at feeder cattle right now, you have the April down 12 at 162.27, May is up 17, and on lean hogs, well, here's the latest. You have the April 35 lower and May down 70 cents at 109.60. The livestock trade doesn't seem to really know for sure what to do here today, Brian.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate description, Marlon. Hogs have been up sharply 2 days in a row and seem like they're having a little consolidation on turnaround Tuesday. Cattle market has seen some intermarket spread trade. April's finding a little pressure against June and August, finding some buying interest after big moves on Monday. Show us numbers virtually unchanged from last week suggests that cash should be at least steady and probably higher this week, with boxes starting to move higher. Very strong week of export sales last week. Steer weight's coming down 3 pounds. So there's some very positive fundamentals of this market that we think is going to give us stronger cash trade into the end of the month. And April's trying to dial that in already. You see it trading around that 140 area. That would represent a $2 bump in the cash markets. So we may have done as much as we're going to do as far as a rally right now in that cattle market until we get into the cash markets and start looking ahead to what could happen to next week.
Absolutely. Okay, Brian, thanks for all the information this morning. Always good to hear from you. Brian Hoops of Midwest Market Solutions. Janet, it's all yours.